So hello everybody, this is the beginning of the BBG Meetup online. We have these meetings twice a month around, and that's basically it. We're gonna have 3 presentations at the moment, and maybe one more is a Tucker Schwab. Alright, so we're gonna have, let me check the names. James, you're going to talk to us about Illyriad. I don't remember exactly the talk. That's going to be the first one. Iain is going to talk to us about the requires.js. So I should have memorized the talk. Sorry, guys. And after that, we're going to have a conclusion from Andrew about BBG in general, I guess. Okay, so let's get started. James, it's up to you. You're on stage. Go.
Hi everyone, I'm James from Illyriad. I'm the CEO, and I have a presentation that I'm going to give to you guys. 10 slides only, don't worry, it's not going to bore you too much, I hope. It's not specifically about Illyriad, it's about 10 things I wish we had known in advance before forming a independent games development company. And I'm just going to share this slide. Are you seeing those slides?
We are.
Great. Cool. 10 things I wish I had understood better before starting an indie game company. This is not going to be hugely about Illyriad, but obviously I'll illustrate it with some personal experiences. And I hope it'll be useful for anyone who is thinking of starting an indie games development company. These are the 10 things I wish I had known before I'd done it. Firstly, very briefly, a quick introduction to Illyriad. Firstly, it's a terrible name, Illyriad. We often call it Illy because it's better, but as you can see from the word Illy there, I-double-L in sans serif looks like 3 I's or 3 L's, so not necessarily the best choice of name. It's an HTML5 browser-based game. It's a massively multiplayer real-time strategy. It's our very first game. This is not just our first game in terms of as a development studio, but also our first game in the sense that none of us have ever worked in the games industry before. We all come from different backgrounds, with the exception of our producer, who's a bit of a veteran. We began work in August 2009. This was me evenings and weekends, like I think most indie games start, working on a prototype. It was originally written in classic ASP with Microsoft SQL Server Express as the back end. Quickly realized I couldn't do everything I wanted to do on my own, so brought in a variety of people, such as Ben Adams, who's our CTO, to make it a much more robust and coherent front end. And it's now all HTML5, MVC, Ajax, Comet, and acronym soup that, frankly, I don't really understand very well. We went into beta in February 2010, and we came out of beta in May 2011. That looks like a very long beta. To be frank, it was a live game in February 2010. We were taking money from players, and it was an open beta, so we were advertising and allowing sign-ups. But these are the 10 things that I wish I had known before starting an indie games company. Most of these are not technical issues, they're on the business side. And again, I hope that's interesting to you guys.
It is, yes.
First question, monetization. Before you even start writing a line of code, I think you should make a decision straight up. Are you intending to make money from your game? Is it a commercial enterprise? I think a lot of indie game developers think that they're going to write a game and maybe we'll see how we're going to make money from it later. Make that decision right now, because you need to decide what strategy you're going to use. There are lots of them. There's free to play with microtransactions, ad-funded subscription, upfront one-off payments, donations, crowdsourcing even. You may laugh at crowdsourcing, but go to Kickstarter.com and look at Double Fine Adventure. They raised $400,000 in 8 hours via crowdsourcing. They're up to 2.3 million, and all they're offering is a copy of the game and a beta key, pretty much. For $5,000, you can get some signed artwork. And they've made a lot of money, and they've raised a lot of money. So there are lots of ways of funding your enterprise. But your choice of commercialization and monetization strategy, I think, dictates a lot of your game design. That may seem a little bit like the tail wagging the dog, but if you choose free-to-play with microtransactions, you need to decide really early on what you mean by microtransactions. What is your cash shop going to offer? If you allow people pay to win, if a guy with a big enough credit card balance can come in and buy the best armor and best weapons in the game, doing a massively multiplayer online persistent world is going to be difficult, because who's going to play your game for 2 years if a new player can come along and in 48 hours have bought his way to victory? So it will dictate a lot of your game design, and it's very hard to change at a later date. So sit down and work that out now, and be very clear that your game is a commercial enterprise if you're intending to make money from it. One of the things that we didn't know but discovered was that you want multiple payment providers. We initially went live with just PayPal. Illyriad is a free-to-play microtransaction game, and we allow people to buy a virtual currency that they can exchange in our cash shop for various bonuses. We went live with PayPal originally, and we later added in Facebook credits and Google Checkout and Fortumo mobile payments. And all of those payment providers we added in were additive revenue. They didn't cannibalize from other sources. And I think that's a really important point, because it's just extra money the more options you have to pay. Secondly, of my top 10 things I knew, people. We all start indie games, I think, mostly being on our own. And if you choose to go alone, limit your ambition. You're going to find it very difficult, I think, to develop a very complex game. The minute you start saying massively multiplayer or NPC AI or pathfinding, you need people around you. You will go crazy if you don't. When you come to launching your game, are you really going to be doing all of the code, all the bug fixing, all the advertising, the SEO, accounting, player support queries, graphics, everything that needs to be done on your own? And the answer generally is no. So find people to work with, because if you don't, the internet is littered, and everyone's hard drives are littered with half-finished projects of games that they started, but they were over-ambitious. Which brings me on to my third thing, which is incorporate. Again, if you've got the idea that you're going to make money from your game, form a company, and there are no excuses for not doing this. It's cheap to do. It's £99 in the UK, $99 in the US. Form a company. 3 very good reasons for this. One, you can reward the people that you've hired with equity, give them a percentage of the company in lieu of pay, because most indie games companies don't have a budget to begin with. You cannot attract outside investment unless you are incorporated, and that's critical. And finally, and it's an insurance policy, for £99 or $99, it limits your liability. If you unless you set out to do a game based on the adventures of Spider-Man, you're unlikely to be litigated, but you will eventually end up stepping on someone's trademark or intellectual property, and you want that liability to be limited. There's no point in writing a game and then losing your house. And do it now, because if you don't, you will regret it later. Talk to professional advisors, my fourth point. Again, not a particularly interesting thing to do. We all want to be sitting there writing games. That's the fun bit. But if you're going to make money from it, talk to people. There are trade and industry bodies that you can talk to who will help you massively. Games industry bodies. Chambers of commerce, you may have heard of these mythical things. They don't know anything about writing games, but they do know a lot about being a startup company in your area. And all of these people are free to talk to. This is the key thing. It won't cost you anything, but find out who they are and talk to them, because they will be able to help. They will be able to put you in touch with people. They might even be able to find you funding, whether that's grant-based funding, if it's an educational game, or whether it's a business angels network or investment group in your area. The government agencies and advice bureaus may sound strange, but talk to them. They're very bored. The people at the Inland Revenue or the IRS in the US, every phone call they get is from someone who's angry. And if you phone them up saying, "I'm starting a games company, can you help?" they get really excited. It's the most interesting phone call they will have every year, and they will give you free advice. Talk to an accountant. Again, quite boring, I'm afraid to say, but and you may have to pay for that, but you shouldn't be more than a couple of hours necessary of an accountant's time. But you want to make sure that your company has the right equity structure. Anyone who's seen The Social Network understands that Class A, Class B shares, voting rights, these things are very, very important to get right at the beginning. In the United Kingdom, we have a scheme called EIS, the Enterprise Investment Scheme. Other countries have similar schemes, which is a government initiative to encourage people to invest in a startup company. And they give massive tax breaks to people who invest in startups. So it's a very useful thing to apply for. It's free to apply. It requires you to write a business plan, and you should probably have written a business plan anyway. And it will make it much easier to raise money, should you ever need to in the future. It's also something that you can't do retrospectively. Normally, you have to apply for this before you start, before you issue any shares. Equally, an accountant will advise you on where to incorporate your company. This is very important. You will find that, for example, in the United States, I should quickly say I spend half my time in the UK and half my time in the US. I have a house in Atlanta. And, for example, in Atlanta, they offer massive tax breaks for companies, game companies, digital economy companies. You may have wondered why CCP, an Iceland-based company who make EVE Online, have a Georgia peach logo at the bottom of their login screen. The answer is they have an office here in Atlanta, and simply by putting that logo on their login screen, their tax rate is reduced from 25% to 7.5%. That's a pretty good deal for putting a logo on your page. But an accountant will be able to advise. Equally, sales tax, as we know, the US is thinking of bringing in lots of taxation on digital goods and virtual economy goods. And different states have different laws about this already. So it's a decision you need to make sensibly up front with professional advice. It's not something that's easy to change at a later date. Finally, research and development tax credits. You may think that your game is not research and development. I beg to differ. If you're doing anything, for example, on pathfinding, you are doing high-level mathematical research into the intractable traveling salesman problem. It seems unlikely, but it's true. These things are massively useful, even if you don't think, well, why do I need a tax credit? I'm not making a profit. You can carry these tax credits over. And so in year 3, when your game does start making a profit, or year 2, or however long it takes, you can write off all of your corporation tax. And the benefits they give are huge. In the United Kingdom, it's 225% is your tax credit for R&D. For every £100 you spend on pathfinding, you get £225 back from the government. It's very, very useful. Plan for success. Don't go into it, if you plan to make money from your game, don't go into it thinking, I'll see how it goes and then I'll see if I can make money. Do all of this stuff as soon as you can, certainly before you go live. Because if you don't, you'll find it very difficult to do a lot of this later. 5th point, be authoritative. It's about professionalization. Your corporate website, about us pages, who we are, how to contact you, dev blogs, sharing your dreams and your vision for the game. This is really important. Legal advice, you don't need to pay for this, but you can buy in templates. But your privacy agreements, your end user license agreement, your terms and services, don't think you can just go to the Blizzard website and borrow theirs. It won't be applicable to you. We spent about $100 in total on getting this right. A company called SEQ Legal did it for us, and it's really important because if you go live with a game forum that doesn't have a sensible terms and services of use, you can find yourself in copyright infringement issues. If a player suggests a new piece of functionality and you put it in the game, whose intellectual property was that? Unless the the forum at the bottom of it has a terms and services saying anything you say in this forum belongs to me, or gives me a perpetual license to use it. Get a registered trademark. We did Illyriad, and it's been a godsend. Very cheap to do, certainly in the UK. It's £250 to do. I say that's very cheap. It depends, but it's really worth it. It gives you a veneer of professionalism, even if you're working weekends and evenings in your mum's basement. It's a really good thing to have. It just makes you look like you're a real company, and people think that you are more professional than you might actually be. Small business banking, really important. No one who ever pays, you don't want to be giving your players PayPal receipts saying, I've just paid James, who lives in his mum's basement. You want them to be thinking that they're dealing with a corporation, and it's part of a confidence thing that helps your players and your investors and everyone else. Business cards and collateral, again, you might be thinking, a digital corporation, I don't need business cards. Yeah, you do. You need business cards because you're meeting with banks and accountants and chambers of commerce, and they will expect you to have a business card. But critical point there, project a professional front. We certainly didn't when we went live to begin with. I should quickly add that we still don't have an office, we still don't have headquarters. We all work remotely, we all work from home. We're on 3 different continents. So it doesn't necessarily mean by becoming a company and by professionalizing it, doesn't mean you're suddenly racking up vast expenses by any means. You can do this relatively cheaply, but you have to project a professional image. 6, metrics. Obviously, there are lots of metrics that you have to be monitoring and keeping a handle on, like the CPU load on your server, or your cost per acquisition, or your average revenue per user. Everyone knows that these metrics are really important. But you also have internal metrics about your player behavior that are specific to your game. And milestone logging, build it into the game design. In Illyriad, we log a lot of things. We log the first time a player engages with the community, when he talks in the in-game chat service or sends an email in-game to a player. That's a really important milestone for that player's player journey through your game. And if you don't log these metrics, you won't be able to make sense of them. We log the minute someone joins an alliance, a guild in our game. And it turns out that 87% of all of the revenue we receive in Illyriad, it comes from players who are in alliances. That's a key milestone. It tells you that a player is in the game. Your game may be different, have different milestones, but track them, log them, and don't assume that you can go back and make sense of them later, because data mining is always a lot more difficult than if you've built it in. Traffic source is really important. You've got to know where your players are coming from, which advertising, which source works, which piece of press coverage that you got is actually referring players to you, and track this all the way through to the actual player's value, and think beyond purely monetary value. It's not necessarily all about how much money a player gave you. Players can be very valuable in many other different ways. For example, a player who joins your game and never buys your currency or whatever it is, may have invited 200 people from his World of Warcraft guild or his EVE Online alliance. He's a very valuable player. He's an enabler, and he has a value, and you need to realize what those values are and assign them to your metrics. And you've got to analyze this data and refine it continuously and act upon it. It will inform your future dev path and your next expansion. 7, support systems logging. Very brief, we all know it, but you've got to have a bug reporting system. It's really, really important. You will go crazy if you're relying on emails and forum posts to point out the bugs in your game once you've gone into beta or going live. Log everything. We didn't to begin with, and it took us a while to work out that a good half of the bugs that players were submitting to us weren't bugs at all. They were players trying it on, players who realized that we didn't actually know whether the caravan had delivered 100 swords to their town, and their players are trying to get things out of you. And the minute someone realizes that you're not logging everything is the minute that you're in some real trouble, because it's hard to refuse a refund for a bug if you're not even sure whether it's a bug or not. And backups, obviously, we all know backups are really important. Again, in the fury of going live with a beta game, you might neglect your backup system, and I strongly recommend, from personal experience, that you don't do this. A couple of update statements without suitable where clauses, such as I wrote once upon a time, and you'll wish you had a backup. Your community, most important thing in terms of your marketing, really. Your players are your best cost-free marketing asset. I know that sounds obvious, but you have to think about why that's true. If someone sees your banner advert on Google and they've never heard of your game, and they click through to an About Us page or about the game or a game tour, they've then got to read it and think, am I going to enjoy this game? And then they've got to sign up, and then they've got to engage with the community. Am I going to like these people? There are lots of questions in their head before they actually have confidence in the game and trust it. Whereas a player who's been referred to the game by another player, most of those questions have been answered. I know I like this game because Dave likes it. I know I'm going to have a fun time in the community in this game because Dave has a fun time in the community in this game. And it's cost-free, or practically cost-free. So, allow your community to talk to you and talk back to you. It's really important. We've just finished a fundraising round from external investors, and quite a number of the people who invested in Illyriad in this fundraising were players of the game who got in touch with us. We didn't have to go out and pitch the game. We want money from this or that venture capital group. These are private individuals who said, I love this game and I want to give you some money. And they're now shareholders in the company. So you will be surprised at the importance of talking to your community. It's not just making your players happy. It can actually make a real impact on your company. Number 9, external marketing, really important. Industry forums, IndieDB, Gamasutra, gamesindustry.biz. Just go on them, blog on them, talk on them, post on them. It's all good link juice for a start, but also get your name out there, and it's important. Distribution channels, lots of them free. Chrome Web Store, I strongly recommend. If you're not on Chrome Web Store, you should be. It sends very high quality, very good players to our game anyway. I should quickly add, everything I'm saying in this entire presentation is from my experience, and it may not apply to you, but it's been great for us. Direct communication, Twitter, Facebook, Google+. We came very late to Twitter, and we regret that. Indirect communication, like YouTube, put your tutorial videos or your how-to videos up on YouTube. If you've got great, unique artwork for your game, put it on DeviantArt. All of this helps. Press and PR, you've got to do it. Gamespress.com. There are lots of other services that will distribute your press releases. But much more important than that, you have to cultivate press contacts. A lot of indie game developers bemoan, rightly, how hard it is to get a journalist to notice your indie game. It is hard, but you have to really work at it, and just writing a press release and sending it out isn't enough. So you have to cultivate press contacts. Now, there are lots of ways of doing it. For example, this presentation of 10 slides that I put together for you guys, I will turn into a 5,000-word article next week that I will pitch to Gamasutra as a feature article. And that's what I mean by cultivating press contacts, because once you're providing them useful information and you're making yourself known, they will start publishing information about you. And press and PR is often more effective return on investment in terms of your time and your money than advertising is. Finally, last slide. Conferences and networking, really important. Talk to everyone, whether they're people in your industry or not your industry, or whether they're game developers or not. Talk to everyone. You will be surprised at who can help you in different areas. Contribute to your open source projects and share insights of what you learn from them. It's not, you can't stand alone. And if you find something useful, give back to it as well. And go to the conferences. We didn't go to On Game Start, which I regret. We're new to conferences. We didn't go in our first year. But last year I went to GT Online and Google's New Game Conf, and they were both absolutely fantastic. Not just for the quality of the talks, but also for mostly for the networking. The people I met, the people we ended up hiring 2 members of staff as a result of going to conferences. They're now full-time staff for the game. I can't recommend conferences more strongly. And finally, join the W3C Games Community Group. You should do this because it's really important.
Yeah.
And good bunch of people, and set those future standards. Push for the things we all want, like web, real-time chat. Lots of things going on there. So that's my talk. There are no more slides. And I don't know whether we're doing questions or anything else. But
yes, that's what we're going to do. So first, thanks for your talk. I will give my opinion, but thanks a lot. So the purpose right now is to
applaud you, James. That was
we need to applaud. That's a bit tricky, but yeah, round of applause. So first, any of you guys first on the, let's say, on the Google Hangout, any of you got question for James? I got some if you want.
Sorry. While James was talking, we've had Andre Pagelli come join us, and he asked a question whilst James was speaking. Andre, do you want to fire off your question?
Go on.
Okay. Hi.
Shoot.
My question is basically, how do you track specific referrals to your game? For example, you gave an example before of a player that never bought anything, but did refer 200 other players from World of Warcraft. How do you track that specific scenario?
There are a couple of ways of doing it. One of the main ways we use is we have a buddy program. We encourage players by incentivizing them to invite other people. So rather than just referring their friends saying, come play Illyriad, we give them a unique tracking code that if they refer a player who then sticks with the game, it gives them some in-game currency. We also do that automatically with Facebook. If you post the link to the game on your Facebook wall, for example, we then track that all the way through. If someone then clicks on their wall and comes through, we use that as a referral tracking code. There are different ways of doing it. It's not always perfect, but unless you're I think the best way is to incentivize your players to use the tracking code. Give them a really good reason. We give them free in-game currency for every player who joins, who sticks with us. I hope that answers your question.
Apparently it does. You noted. Okay, I got a question myself. So when you got, let's say, good customers, a customer who do, for example, invite a lot of people or things that you like, you as a game maker, let's say, how do you reward them? Do you give them freebies or stuff like that? How do you reward those good players? Do you have any incentive for them to go on being good players?
That's a very good question. We probably prioritize their suggestions for the game and their support. Only if they're good suggestions, but yeah, we will prioritize them. We will make sure that they have a bigger voice, because it's important to, if they like the game so much that they've referred all these players and they're all sticking together, it forms a block. And whilst you have to treat all players equally, being quite honest, you can't do that. There are players who you trust, whose opinions that you listen to maybe more seriously than other players, and we do that. We do meet and greets because we travel a lot and we've got staff in lots of different, in different continents. We will often do a get-together in a pub, and we will make sure that we introduce, that we invite, the movers and shakers to those things. We haven't done as many of them as we'd like to, but we're going to be kickstarting that program because players love Meet the Devs events, especially if the company is picking up the bar tab. We do T-shirts and posters and cafe press, digital printing on demand, and we will send those out again to some of the enabling core players. It all depends slightly on how you define the value of a player as being really important. Obviously, referring other players is really important, but there are other quite hard, intangible ones. For example, you may have a player who doesn't buy any of your in-game currency, who doesn't refer other players, but maybe they spend a lot of their time in global chat or your in-game chat system helping new players. That player also has a value, a huge value, and you've got to find ways of encouraging that behavior.
Excellent. Any other question, guys? Do you have other question? No? We have one from the... Yeah, shoot.
We do, Jerome. I've just dropped them into the G+ chat.
Okay, so we have... Well, I will repeat, but I think you already answered. Is why it is important to have a corporate website. Why is corporate website important? Shoot.
Well, from my perspective, because the very first thing a journalist who gets interested in your game will do is try and find out who you are. What kind of a game are you making? What's your mission statement? What's your gaming philosophy? Where do you come from? What's your gaming DNA? And that corporate website doesn't have to be really boring and dry, but it gives them a good angle. This guy used to do this. He used to work on that project, or he used to work on this company. And so that who we are and what we're doing is very important from a press perspective. And it's critical from an investor's perspective. An investor won't, even if you're not necessarily looking for investment, you might find you get investment anyway. So I think a corporate website is very important.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to prioritize a question. Okay, just reading right now. You mentioned, you being you, James, you mentioned a lot of things. What to prioritize in the opening 6 months, or is it too project dependent to comment on?
Wow. Well, some of those things I think you should do before, they're things that you should do up front. And a lot of them, for example, forming a company, this is something you should do before, and getting the right people on board. These are things that you should probably do before the project gets too serious. There are lots of areas in that presentation, and that's just my top 10. If you pushed me, I could probably make a top 50 list.
Yeah, that's good enough.
But I'm sure it would be far too boring a slide presentation.
No, it was really interesting, my point of view. Go on.
I think the really important thing is to get the people in, because then you can share the load of this. People is probably the most important, because you can, if you get someone, if you don't understand accounting and finance and all the rest of it, find someone who does. Who's a gamer, who can, just give a couple of days, 1 weekend a month to help you out in return for 1% of the company. And then you can pass all of that Chamber of Commerce accounting stuff on to him. So I'd say probably the biggest thing to prioritize is people, finding the right people to work with.
Loving your answer. I got one myself. We have a lot of game dev, something like we are coders or some graphists, and we're able to write the game, but what I like about your talk is you come from not writing, but selling the game. That's how do we find a good person to sell our game? We have a good game, we're able to design the good game, we don't know how to sell it. How can we fix this problem?
Again, finding someone who knows it. That's the key thing.
How can I find this guy?
Well, you can talk to your Chamber of Commerce. They don't necessarily need to come from the games industry. And I'm sorry to bang on about the Chamber of Commerce, but if someone who's good at marketing, I mean, if you look at our corporate website, one of our new non-executive directors, Lynn Brunner, she was senior marketing manager at Coca-Cola. She headed up experience, customer relationship marketing, and Orange Telecoms. And she gives us a day a month, but that is a day of genius.
Valuable
and
one.
Sets the priorities for us.
Okay.
And you meet these people at conferences as well. Our community manager, who also runs our marketing, Leela, I met her at GDC Online in November, and she's now full-time with us. I poached her from her existing company.
All right. Reading another question. What is the biggest technological hurdle when building Illyriad?
I'm probably not the right person to talk to on that one.
Give it a shot.
Because I'm not hugely technical. I mean, I write the back end. I write the SQL stuff, SQL stuff. We're putting together WebGL at the moment, and audio. We have a full-time, not full-time. We have a part-time audio engineer and a part-time WebGL guy working on a WebGL stuff. That's really exciting. We're really looking forward to that. Is it a big technological hurdle? Probably not. I think the biggest technological hurdle, depending on your game, I mean, if you're in an MMO, it's probably scalability. Building an architecture that's scalable, and you've got to make that decision, I think, quite early on if you're going to go down an Amazon Web Services cloud infrastructure or a Google Cloud or whatever, versus a single solid big server. Illyriad's on a single solid big server. It's a beast of a box, 24 cores and lots of RAM and solid-state drives, and it's ticking along very happily. But it's not massively scalable. If 1 million players join tomorrow, we would creak. And so you have to have a good strategy for how that would work, especially if you're doing a single shard continuous universe like we did. And you should really plan on that. So I'd say scalability is probably the biggest tech hurdle.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read another question, or I'm gonna ask myself many after that. Did he mention, he being you, did he mention anything about WebGL? I missed the first half of the talk.
Well, no, I didn't. I was staying away from technology pretty much. But we do have a WebGL demo. You can see it on our dev blog. It's blog.illyriad.co.uk. And hit on the development button. We have a WebGL demo. It's quite a big download at the moment. We're doing a lot of work on optimizing it. But it is a WebGL demo with audio, including 3D spatial audio. It's quite detailed models. It's got day-night cycles and environmental effects and lighting in there. There's quite a lot going on in that, and there's dev blogs about the process of putting that together as well, and some of the tools that we use to do it. We're really excited about WebGL. We think there's an awful lot to do in it, and indeed, not that I'm going to talk about what we're doing next, but there's a lot of work to do on Illyriad. But game number 2 will probably be a full-on WebGL game, and we're really excited about it.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that, personally. That's my personal point of view here. All right. Anybody else got question for James? Apparently, we are okay.
You can ask me questions later, or send them to me on email or anything.
We're going to put your coordinates and coordinate your the way to find you inside.
Andre's just asked the question, what about mobile? Because I understand that Illyriad is able to be played from mobile devices.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The Daily Mobile, in fact, press say that we are fantastic. And yesterday we were in Massively's top 16 mobile games. Just HTML5, we haven't pandered to any particular mobile device. We haven't put in functions for any specific mobile device, but you can play Illyriad on your Android or your iPhone. And it's because we're not using Flash, and we don't use any plugins at all. It's very pure, at the code end, and it works. It's not perfect, but you can play it. We are also opening up an API to Illyriad at some point in the future that will allow third parties and our players who have expressed an interest in doing it to write their own iPhone apps to monitor their in-game mail systems or their trade orders or whatever it is, it's your gameplay functionality, as their own apps. And if someone wants to write a specific Google app, brilliant, we love it. We're not going to do that. We're very clear that the more specific technologies that we focus on, the more diluted our development time is going to be. And so if we just focus on making it work in HTML5 on a web browser without any plugins, that's our core. And if we can open up an API that allows other people to develop certain functions for Illyriad, and maybe on a commercial basis, someone makes a brilliant iPhone app version of Illyriad using our API, we will split the money from the sales with them, or split it unfairly perhaps, but there will be a license fee.
Or give that to your employee. I mean, just a link on the Minecraft guy who's gave something like 3 million to his employees, something like 2 days ago. I don't know if you followed this one.
Yeah, good on him. Again, I should say, this is just the Illyriad experiences. Mileage may vary; it may not apply to everyone. And all of the rules I've given, there are exceptions that prove that they're not actually hard and fast rules at all.
Yeah, but it's super cool that you share.
But these are the things I found useful.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed your talk quite a bit. Do we have other questions? I tend to learn. I think that's cool, man. Round of applause.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks to you. Okay. So, Jem finished his talk, and we're going to put his coordinate somewhere on the website. So, if you wanted to contact him, don't hesitate. Right now, we're going to have Iain Carsberg, who's going to talk to us about... I don't want to say AMD requires JS UMD. He's going to give you all the details. And you're on stage, Ben. It's up to you. Go.
Hello, everyone. Right, let me just
A bit louder if you can.
Okay, let me just click that. Okay.
Better.
Alright, my talk is about AMD and UMD and what will you face. Someone's beeping at me. Is that good beeping? Okay, right. So, before I get into my talk, let me just explain who I am. Okay, I'm a senior web developer at Mediatonic. Basically, I focus on HTML5 game development. If you don't know who Mediatonic are, you should check them out. Amazing company. We do mobile applications, like Facebook kind of games, and like games for consoles. So we've got a couple PlayStation mini games out there. Definitely worth checking out. Right, and then basically. I've written loads of pretty impressive HTML5 related tech demos. So I've never released anything outside of #BBG. So if you want to see them, you need to hang around the channel. I've been in #BBG for a hell of a long time. And go easy on me. I've not done this before. Okay, I'm going to make certain assumptions based on your skill level. So if you're not experienced with this kind of stuff, then it may go a bit over your head. So basically, I'm hoping you've got an intermediate level of JavaScript experience. Basically, if you've written a couple of websites and not wanted to kill somebody after doing it, then you should be fine. Exposure to something like jQuery, because some of my examples, I liken it, AMD-related technologies to jQuery. And then also a frustration with jQuery's inability to scale. My kind of background is I came from building corporate websites and web applications using jQuery, and kind of the impression I was given with the way the API works is you only use the $FN function to add extra functionality, and that kind of you run into problems. But I'll cover that later on. So, what is AMD? AMD stands for Asynchronous Module Definition. We'll get into breaking down the individual bits. Basically, I'll talk about modules first and then the asynchronous bit later on. Okay, before I get into the meat of the talk, I'm going to be focusing on require.js's implementation of AD. There are some slight differences, but we'll cover it later on. So here, what you're seeing now is like a dead simple bit of jQuery, where we find a new function, it does something, and then we get the document ready. Now, if you have a nice big complicated website, then you're going to have hundreds, thousands of these FN functions. So the namespace gets really cluttered really quickly, and it doesn't scale easily, and then having to test individual components is a bit of a pain. So what AMD does is it basically separates all this out into separate modules. So what the next couple of slides are is basically taking this simple example and expanding it. So what here is, this is how you define the same kitty function inside an AMD define. I'll get into explaining the finite detail of this later on, but yeah, we'll just go for now. So as you can see, it's the exact same kitty function as the previous slide, apart from it's got some extra wrappers with calls to define and some arrays and some anonymous functions. Then to call that, we then do the same thing, but with a require this time, and then we require all the different bits we need, and off it goes. And then to actually execute the kitty, that's how it works. Again, all this will be explained over into the talk. So how does it work? Right. By now, you've probably seen me talking about two different global variables. There's require and define. Basically, these are almost the same kind of thing, but require has a little bit extra that define doesn't. Basically, the easiest way to think of it is require is, in a website, you've got your index HTML file. It's like the entry point into your whole application, website, whatever. Require is basically the entry point into your AMD application. So use this to define globally known modules or configuration kind of stuff. But we'll get into that a bit later on. Basically, the syntax is for using them is basically the same. It's just one's got some extra cool features that I'll cover in a moment. So here's the anatomy of a standard AMD script. So you've got your define or require. It takes this is where the required JS version slightly takes an alternate direction to standard AMD. Normally with an AMD script, the first parameter in your define would be the name of it. But what require.js does is it's because it's got it comes with a loader for loading in the individual scripts. You can anonymously define a function, and then it will work out what actually that script is called. So yeah, the first parameter in this case is an array of dependencies. So you just list all the different scripts you need to pull into this kind of this namespace basically, and then use. The second parameter is an anonymous function that then you take the functions that you take your dependencies and go off and do something. So this is how it gets the asynchronous bit, because so far we've covered the module definition. Here's how the asynchronous bit works. Basically, when require.js sees, I have to just go back and forth. So when require.js sees, let's say you want compose, what it will do is it will add a new script tag to your head, the document's header, label it, and put all the relevant information in. And when the script load event fires, it then knows what which module loaded in and how to access it. So then internally there's got like a reference pointer, so it knows that compose then relates to this block of script, and then it can use it. The good thing about require is that it knows exactly when a new block of script is pulled into scope. So you only have even if you have 10 scripts using one script repeatedly, then you only ever get one script tag for that relevant script in the head. I hope that makes sense. So now we've got a really basic idea of what AMD is. I'm going to talk about some of the differences between a require call and a define call, and then we can see where we can go from there. So one of the cool things about the require version of the pair is that you can configure paths. So as you may have noticed, before when I was just bringing in compose, I was just I didn't need to point to the exact directory in my file structure. So what require config paths does is it lets you have like shorter shortcuts basically to the full definition. The great thing about this is if you need to update versions of the software later on, so say there's a new version of jQuery come out, you've got a single place to replace it and update it, and that's it done. Moving on. So as you've noticed in the previous slide, let's go back to it. We're referencing, when we're referencing any of the scripts, we're just going from like lib whatever. There's a base URL implementation that basically lets you set the root directory for all of your JavaScript. There are two ways to define this. You've got the global script tag where you bring require.js into scope and then you set the data main. What this does is the require.js will take the whole of the data main, drop off the last element, and whatever's before that will become your base URL. Or, 99% of the time that's how you'll be using require. If you're using require code inside like a Node.js environment, then you can use the require.config base URL, and that basically does the same thing. So, as you may have noticed before, when I was calling underscore, I have to use use. This is because underscore doesn't come with, isn't like an AMD kind of module, so it doesn't automatically know that when it's included that it looks for AMD functionality and then binds into that. It just releases a super global and says, okay, I'm called underscore, what are you going to do about it? What use does is basically allows you to bind to global objects and bring them into the AMD scope. So for a lot of really awesome libraries, it means you can use them in this kind of AMD ecosystem kind of thing. It's an amazing script. It saves loads of time. So another thing you can do is, say you've got a define and you're defining a load of functionality. You can then have another, a sub-required that then brings in more functionality. So in this example, required returns an internal reference, so it's like a magic word. So in this example, I'm defining a new block of functionality, and then saying I need compose and I need underscore, but then later on I realise, I need met, so I'll bring that in. But you have to have the required brought in as part of definition. Now, before I was talking about use, basically the way this works is it uses like an alternative kind of syntax for define. You can achieve the same by returning an object inside the function, but this is like a shortcut. What load lets you do is bind kind of special code to the exclamation point. So in this example, I've got cake exclamation point tart. Now, if cake is a tart, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. Because the load function is passed its own version of require automatically by require.js, you can then use that to download extra modules from other places. So, for example, if you wanted to, you could. One of the common implementations I use for this is with mustache files. So, as I don't know if you know, but mustache is like a HTML templating library that comes with. You basically give it a snippet of text, and then you can call the to.html, and then pass in an object, and it will let you do stuff. So, one of the common modules I've written is you can call mustache exclamation point and then pass in some JSON data. It will then take that JSON data, pass it into usable data, and then inject it into the view automatically. So it's just cool techniques for improving workflow. So now I've talked about a lot of various different bits of AMD. Just one of the the things that you should be thinking, hopefully thinking in your head is, because you've got a massive separation of logic, so you've got very small components to do very specific tasks, you're going to end up with tens or hundreds of scripts in any given application. As part of the require.js project, there's RJS, and what RJS lets you do is compile all of these individual files and external dependencies into one superscript. So, say for example you're using like underscore and jQuery and whatever other projects in your in what you're developing, you can compile these into one script. Then when a user comes to your site, they're just downloading one script, and then that's it, and then they've got everything they need, which is amazing. So I've talked quite a bit about AMD. I'll just quickly talk about UMD. I think I'm getting a bit pushed for time, so there's not much on this slide. Here's a link to where you can download and look at UMD. So yeah, it's still a bit early, so it's still a bit thin. So, but yeah, have a look. It's good. Basically, what UMD is basically with an AMD application, it will only work kind of inside an AMD environment. Now, which is fine if you're developing like one super application that you're not you're fully in charge of. It's not for third-party consumption. Sometimes you might want to release an app, a script or a bit of functionality that does a very good job but works in a lot of different places. So, say for example, you're writing your own, something as usable as underscore. You could use like a UMD wrapper to make it globally accessible. So, the way this works is it will look for it will sniff the global scope for certain keywords. So, if you've got an export object, then you can safely assume you're in a Node.js environment. Whereas if you have a defined function that has an AMD kind of variable tag, then you can assume you're in an AMD environment. And if none of those two cases happen, then you're more likely to be in a global DOM environment where you've just got a window object that contains everything. So basically, what I'm going to do now is just talk about UMD. I mean, yeah, because it's still quite early. The idea is quite, to my understanding, is quite new. I'm just going to waffle about how I foresee myself implementing it in my own work. So, what my intention is to build, all the application I'm writing using our JS into one super application, but then not including require.js into that build, using an alternative called Almond, which is basically a require.js shim for normal stuff. The reason you want to use this is it's a lot smaller, so it's rather than a couple hundred kilobytes, it's under a K, so it's nice and small. So what my intention is, if I just jump back, my intention is to build everything up into one big application, into one big script file, and then basically have that within the bottom function, the bottom anonymous function. So then, because I know my code's always going to be executed within a certain environment, then I can just return a global context, which in theory should make it universal and easily accessible from everything. I still need to look into this a bit further. So go on to the question and answer section and see what people have been asking.
Okay. Thanks, Iain, for your talk. So as usual, first, you're on stage. We see your face now. Any question among the...
Yes, I'm here now.
Yeah, relax. It's over, man. Okay, any question about over the... Inside, from the talker? Somebody got a question? Andrew, Fokker, or James? Shoot.
Yeah. I have a question. Presumably what you've just discussed is applicable not only client-side, but also server-side?
Yes. So, yeah, that's... meaning to mention that, I've just passed my mind. Basically, the great thing about AMD kind of related technologies is you can write code once, and because it's wrapped up in a nice format, you can easily port it between a browser and JS. So a lot of the work I do, both professionally and personally, I write all my kind of complex game logic once, and then it will run in both environments, which makes it extremely portable. So you can write basically a game once, and it'll run in on desktop browsers, mobile browsers, and on a server. For validation, it's amazing.
Okay, Andrew is definitely happy with the answer. And other question from the talkers?
Have you thought about dependency resolution?
So this is a question from Fokker. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm just going to talk, and then if I didn't understand your question, then correct me. But basically, one of the common patterns I've been using is to have a folder basically that contains all functionality that relates to a specific problem, and then have a parent that's a higher level that then requires fires in all those different bits, composes the object, and then returns it. So for example, I've been writing an entity component system, and to make it easy to unit test and to develop, I've separated each kind of bit of functionality into a separate script. Then all these bits of functionality are then, composed inside a parent kind of thing. If that makes sense.
What do you think? Yeah, he is happy as well.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got some examples that I can put up online afterwards.
There's louder if you can. I don't know. I'm losing you.
I'll put some examples up on Gist or something after the talk. There wasn't enough space in the slides because of the size of the font and whatnot.
That's a format that we need to have. For all the link, it's gonna be updated on the bbg.com blog. We're gonna take care of that, probably not today, but for sure tomorrow. Okay, do we have other question? I don't think not. Round of applause. All right, it seems a bit weird all the time, but we need to do it. All right, so let's show my face a bit. Yeah, it's me. So Andrew, are you ready for global presentation of BBG? Mute, you're muted.
So we've had the first part today. The first part primarily is a series of lightning talks that are somewhere in the region of 10 to 30 minutes. Looking at James.
No. Personally, seriously, you did good content.
Yeah.
No. You did good content. I don't feel like stopping it. Go on.
Sorry about that.
I've loved both
No,
talks
don't
today.
need to be.
Fantastic. Plenty of information. So the second part of a BBG meetup typically involves a number of people getting together and having a bit of a chat about all things current with regards to HTML5 gaming. We've got our two speakers today, James and Iain. Jerome is present. We also have Andre Pagella, who has starred in a previous BBG meetup. He discussed his CSS 3D engine that he's currently developing. This is quite a free format, so this is the point where we just kind of discuss various bits and pieces that happen to be going on. I know for a fact that thus far we've already mentioned.
I'd like to
GDC.
call that coffee machine time, something like we
Yeah,
shout like a coffee machine.
Exactly. I'm assuming coffee machine is a French term. I don't know that for a
No,
fact.
come on, you drink coffee from machine. I'm pretty sure you go fetch your coffee and there you chat. Go on, sorry.
I think it's some sort of crazy French term that Jerome's ripped up.
Apologize.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen so that you can. I've got a number of things that I just wanted to highlight to people. Hey, right, GDC is upon us. I'm not going personally. I'd love to be, but unfortunately I'm not. GDC will be taking place on the 5th to the 9th this year. It is essentially everything games development related. As James previously mentioned, it is pretty much the place to be if you're in any way involved with games development. James also highlighted a number of additional side benefits of attending GDC in terms of networking, etc. The URL for this year's conference is just gdconf.com. And I do know that there are a number of people that are in the #BBG channel that happen to be attending this year. So ask around in the channel and you can probably meet up for a few drinks. Some more news I have.
I won't be there, but my demo will be on screen. There is a guy who's gonna show HTML5 demo, and he picked some of mine. So I will be on screen.
Which demo is that, Jerome?
WebRTC, something like we have two WebGL TV, and you got live stream inside the TV. Vincent Shabe from Google gonna show that on screen.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I should probably mention that in the #BBG channel, we do have a number of people that are very influential within the HTML5 game development community. So if you, as Jerome has highlighted, if you do want some of your work brought to a wider audience, then I'm sure that there's somebody in there that's prepared to promote and endorse the work that you've been doing.
Those people most likely are very nice to talk to, by the way. So they are very free and quite open.
Yeah, most certainly. Friendly channel. Okay, the second thing I wanted to make mention
Andrew, and maybe that's only me, sorry. We have some screening problem.
The second
Go ahead.
thing I wanted to make mention of was that Rob Hawkes of Mozilla has produced a cursory write-up of the Mozilla HTML5 Games Work Week that recently took place in Toronto. They basically gathered together a considerable number of Mozilla folk that were interested in HTML5 games development. And in addition to that, on a couple of the days, I believe they had a number of people that were influential, again, within the games industry as a whole. And they asked them questions, they were allowed to put forward the different issues that they encountered whilst working with HTML5, what they felt were the shortcomings as it stands, what they need specifically, where Firefox and Chrome and various other browsers were lacking in terms of the desirability because of the experience that they wanted people to get out of their games. Just working my way down. I think this is the first of many actual sort of, not necessarily work weeks specifically, but Mozilla themselves have been doing an awful lot of work recently along the lines of HTML5 gaming. This list here is quite exhaustive, but it does highlight a number of the things that were discussed whilst the work week took place. Mozilla, as always, if you want to get involved, they're only too pleased to hear from you. They're very approachable. Rob Hawkes is a channel member, so if there's any specific Mozilla-related questions that you happen to have, Rob will either be able to answer them himself or be able to direct you to somebody that potentially could assist you. And then Hyper Android. Iain of I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Ludii? Anyone know?
I don't know.
Anyone know how we pronounce this?
Personally, I don't.
Lude, I think.
Lude. Let's go for Lude.
Lude. Okay, Hyper Android is one of the Iain is one of the people that spoke at On Game Start about the bits and pieces that he'd been working on, but he's also going to be present at GDC this coming week. There are, as I mentioned before, there are a number of people in the channel that will be present. So hopefully you'll see some #BBG presence performing some networking bits and bats while you're at GDC, if you happen to be attending. And the last thing I wanted to mention was, admittedly, it's a bit of a plug, but when you see the lineup, it's quite interesting. Coming up in April, myself, Jerome, Sam Foster, Michał Budzinski, who organised the On Game Start conference, as well as Camille Tribunia, he was at On Game Start, and one second, Jacob as well. Jacob will also be present at this coming conference, Web-5. Not everyone's speaking about games development. It's HTML5 in general, with a number of applicable use cases. So if you get the opportunity to make your way over to Béziers,
just like that, it is south of France, and this is in the spring, and this is a wine country inside of France. So this is wine, this is the spring. Bring your wife.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
and we got GitHub, we got Wuga. Wuga is a game company inside Berlin. A lot of dojo in there, and well, I like them quite a bit. But as he says, that's quite a plug. I'm part of the organization of the other stuff as well. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I just wanted to make mention of it because it is applicable. Also, Jerome and I recently discussed the possibility of potentially setting up some sort of BBG Meetup whilst we happen to be at Web5. It probably won't be exhaustive, but it's on the cards. So I hope that something comes from it, certainly. That's about me exhausted, to be honest. Has anybody got anything they'd love to discuss? Say yes.
Are you saying that we are now in the second part? Second part, coffee machine, water cooler, whatever.
Perhaps we can talk about Chrome coming to Android.
Oh, yes.
We got the subject.
Big news, that. We knew it was on the cards. We didn't know it was on the cards.
Personally, I like it because I trust quite a bit that WebGL will come in this browser. It is not currently available. Repeat that.
WebGL is already on mobile. It's on like certain Android devices. Like the standard Android browser. It's on. I've got WebGL on my phone already.
We got Boaz coming just in time for the end. Boaz?
Hey, what's up, man?
All right. By your haircut, I
Hey,
feel
Boaz.
that you just woke up or something.
Yeah, I did just wake up.
All right.
Good man. Good man.
So, are you ready to do your talk? Improvise it or something? You have time if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about the W3C Games Group.
Go ahead.
Fantastic.
Speak louder or tune your microphone or something. We don't hear you too loud.
Is this better?
Much.
No, I mean, I probably don't really have 15 minutes of things to talk about. I didn't prepare, but what
Sure.
what was probably useful. Hang on a second. Is I don't know if you all have, is there how many people, or is everyone here like a member of the community group?
I am, certainly.
Yeah, apparently
So I don't
we
know
have
if you
several
saw
members.
the Etherpad that we were passing around, but we've got an Etherpad where we're taking notes about the features that we reviewed at the last summit.
Okay.
Here, I just pasted it into the chat. So in this Etherpad, if you go back, if you wind back on the Etherpad, it has the notes from our last summit, which were compiled into the report that's here. And so the Games Community Group, right? The goal of the Games Community Group is to track features, open web standards that are important to game developers, and to track their implementation and evangelize them to working groups. Because in the community group we can't really write specifications, but the working groups can write specifications. And so we want to find working groups that will adopt the features that we want and get them written and stabilized as recommended features. I could share my screen, but there's not really much.
Do you have slides or anything
I don't really
like that?
have slides. No, I didn't.
There is a button, share screen, just on top of your pictures. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll share.
Pick the window that you like.
I'll share a new browser window. That works. Man, Google Hangouts has really come a long way.
It's beautiful, man. We see your screen.
So right, if you go to the group, there's links to all of the our last report.
Just one thing, boss.
Yeah.
Just one thing. Do a small, larger font, or nobody can read. Larger font, like Control Alternate Plus or something. A bit too much. Good. Thanks. Good. Bigger. Well, let's say good enough. We're gonna paste all the link on the log.
So, the link is w3.org/games/community/games, right? And this is sort of like the home of the Games Community Group, where we sort of post all of our notes. You can see our last summit was at right after New Game, and so our next summit is actually tomorrow in San Francisco, at 4:00 San Francisco time. At GDC, at the Game Developer Conference. And I know we have some folks from the BBG channel, as well as people from Google and Opera and Mozilla coming, representatives from the browser teams to talk about the features that are important to game developers. And so the format for writing, if you have an idea for a feature and you can't make it even, or if you can't make it, the way to talk about it is to email the Games Community Group list, which is linked to from w3.org/community/games, and you write. We look for a use case, maybe a use case for what you want to do with the feature if it hasn't been proposed yet. What working group it might make sense for this to go into, and if there's any existing implementations. Because actually sometimes features get started. Browsers will start to implement features before they get really noticed by the W3C. We see that with mouse lock. That happened with mouse lock. If you can make it, details are on the W3C Games Community Group website. If you can't make it, watch the Etherpad. And send if there's any features that we haven't talked about yet in our last report that you want to know about, write them down in the Etherpad or email the Games Community Group list, and that's a good way to be involved from afar.
That seems like good. So
go ahead.
No. If you still have stuff to say, go ahead. Sure.
Actually, I remembered another really cool thing I can show everyone. But,
sure.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah, you speak a bit too fast, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Show what you have to show.
Sorry, I'm a fast talking American. People make fun of me for that a lot.
That's cool, man.
But basically, the important thing about the community group is if you have features that you need in a browser, you can email a use case to the community group, and the use case is sort of I want X feature in order to be able to do Y. And then you can also, it's not about saying this is how what the API needs to look like. It's about saying, if you look at the report, where do I go? The report from our last summit is here. It's a Google Doc. If you look at the report, we're talking about, the use case, enable games to have, for example, for mouse lock, enable games to have full control over interpreting mouse movement, right? And that's not about saying this is what the API should look like, right? It's about saying, so it's not specifically this is how I want to consume the API with JavaScript. It's about saying this is what I want to be able to do. And the working groups will write the JavaScript API.
So more the purpose that the actual precise API with all the actual spec. Is that a fair summary?
So you wouldn't want to propose the actual API. The working group is going to propose the API.
Okay. So we just describe the need.
Yeah, you describe the need. And so please, if there's any needs, please email the community group or email me. I'm Boaz at Bocoup.com.
Okay.
And then,
Seems cool. Anybody among the talker got a question for Boaz about this? Should. That's W3C Community Game Group Share. Don't want to... Something like this title. You're gonna correct if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Any question? Go ahead. Nobody?
So I also have another... I've moved.
Yeah.
Sorry, did somebody have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Andrew.
If people would like to get involved, presumably they can just literally visit that same URL that you provided and they can sign themselves up and they then themselves become involved with the Games Community Group.
Correct. So if you want to become involved...
Louder, please. Boaz, please louder.
If you want to become involved, you can sign up. You can go to that URL and sign up. It's somewhat lengthy process, which involves emailing the W3C a certain type of text. But once you sign up for the W3C, then you can sign up for as many community groups as you want easily. It's just takes a little while. And please, I encourage you to join. It's an awesome group.
Yeah, I'll second that. As I say, it was the last item on my slide is join the W3C community. It's a great bunch of people. I met Boaz at New Game Conf. It was fantastic.
Awesome.
Excellent.
I have two other useful things to share.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. From the moment a feature is suggested, how much time does it passes until it gets added to the official working group draft?
So it depends. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on how important the feature is. It depends on how much agreement there is on the feature between the vendors. And so it can be anywhere between, for example, in our last summit, we recommended, in November of 2011, we recommended mouse lock. Everyone said we need mouse lock. And it showed up in Chrome Canary, I think 2 months later. So these features can show up in the browsers a lot quicker. Sorry, I have to stand by the side of my computer to get the microphone. These features can show up a lot faster in browsers than they do in specifications. Specifications take 6 months to a year to write, I would say, usually, to become stable from a working group. Oftentimes, before a working group becomes a working group to write a spec, there'll be an incubator group formed. Like that's what we did at work. We ran the audio incubator group before there was a working group, and it took about 8 months to get together to get to a point where we got ratified as a working group, and then it got handed over to an actual W3C member, because I'm not a W3C member. So yes, that being said, it all really depends. It just really depends on a lot of different things.
I see. And another question is, what happens when there's a disagreement between the vendors? For example, in the case of the orientation log, I think that both Mozilla and Google agree that we need a way to specify the orientation log, but Apple is against it. What happens in that specific case?
So, either nothing happens for a long time, or Apple and Google, or Mozilla and Google just implement it anyways, which is what they've done. Or Apple leaves the working group that's working on it and it gets stabilized. Or oftentimes it'll happen in other kinds of ways, like sometimes there's something you can do to the feature to take out something that Apple is that one of the companies is disagreeing with. So often, it's about patent pooling, right? Because the W3C, each working group is like a little patent pool. So you each working group is basically when you specify a feature, you're specifying actually explicitly what every member of that working group is going to forfeit, what patents they're going to forfeit. And so the thing is, it's a trade-off. You get a say in what the feature looks like in exchange for releasing intellectual property connected with that feature. So with mouse lock, I don't think there's any patent issues. I just think that Apple is anti-competitive with the App Store, and so it's about so getting Apple on board with all of these things is going to be about putting industry pressure. Working with all the device manufacturers and the browser vendors that are not Apple to put industry pressure on Apple to implement a mobile web browser that's a first-class citizen. Has everyone seen Ringmark?
I've seen it.
Show it, man. Show it.
So this is Ringmark. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
So on your mobile phones, it's rng.io is a shared name. And this is a mobile web test suite that we built with Facebook for testing features explicitly for mobile web browsers. And really part of the goal, what Facebook has actually done that's very exciting, is they've gotten buy-in from, I think, 8 device manufacturers, including like Sony, Ericsson, Microsoft, pretty much everybody besides Apple, to say that in the next 6 months they're going to be passing Ring 1. Because a lot of devices actually aren't passing Ring 1. So to show you what this means, really, Ring 0 is the status quo. Ring 0, this middle one here, or this most inside one, is what works currently on iOS and iOS 5 and Android 2.2 Froyo. And Ring 1 is what I would need. What we think, it's an opinionated ring of things that we think web developers need in order to build the top 88% of native apps in the App Store. And then Ring 2 isn't running because Ring 1 failed, but there's a secret. If you go _all, it'll run all the tests, and we've got like some other stuff in there. Obviously, Ring 1 is like app cache, CSS values, a bunch of tests. Ring 1 is like multiple audio tracks at the same time. We test for 8 audio tracks. Blob builder, access to the camera. And Ring 2 is 3D, very far off. But I think for the games group, what this means is I think, or for BBG, Ring 1 is what you need to build like a 2D game in the browser, in my opinion.
Okay.
So everyone should check this out.
Okay. Personally, I would love to be able to run a 3D game inside the browser on mobile. It is very recently possible with Opera on Mozilla, but not widely deployed, unfortunately.
Well, actually, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So, Opera and Mozilla are almost as crappy at like Firefox Mobile is not great. No, seriously, like
Yeah.
that's something we found with building Ringmark. All of these the mobile web is a ghetto.
Oh, yeah. When you have to do it for real, I do agree.
It's crazy. Like, you know, Firefox. I was blown away by the stuff that Firefox didn't implement, and there's regressions from Android 2.2 to Ice Cream Sandwich. The native browser in Ice Cream Sandwich it crashes if you try and bind to an orientation change. It's like, you know, crazy.
Crazy, yeah. Several game companies told me about it, and unfortunately, well, they choose to go iOS native instead of HTML5 because of what you actually described.
Yeah. So if we can get, I mean, it's all on us too. Like, if we
Exactly.
get device, like the reason that the big mobile, so they've gotten 8 device manufacturers and like 12 carriers. 12. You don't call them carriers in Europe. I forget what you call them.
We are losing you, I think.
You know, to say basically, what do you call them?
I think we are losing you. Sometimes you go away. Please repeat the last few sentences, let's say.
Can you hear me?
It's a network provider, like a mobile phone network.
Yeah, a cellular provider. Well, so what I was saying is, yeah, mobile phone.
Yeah. In the UK, as Iain mentioned, it's called like a mobile phone network.
Mobile phone. There's another word I forget, but so it's on us, right? Because the reason that all of the mobile phone carriers and networks and like the reason that the manufacturers want, the reason why they want to have Ringmark and to say that we support Ring 1 is because they want us to build games and web applications for their phones that are not in the App Store. They want to, you know, unseat Apple, basically, in my opinion. And so it's very exciting. It's a very huge opportunity for us to come together and like push the open web, you know, push consumers to the open web.
The way I see it is really like a chicken egg. If we do compelling games, they will come with good browser, but we do compelling game if we have good browser. What do you think? Am I far from reality? Is that idealist?
Yeah, I mean it is kind of like that. I think we need the browser first, and then it will come.
Okay. We see now your TTY. You want to show TTY stuff?
TTY?
Yeah, Bocoup community stuff.
Oh yeah, there's one more thing I want to show.
Show. Go ahead.
Yep. Go ahead, certainly.
So I think Darius is talking to a bunch of you about new games.
Okay, so you're running some stuff. Rec preview. Pick your game.
So this is.
I don't know how to share. I'm sharing the wrong thing.
Yeah, we see your face at the moment. Okay.
So has Darius talked to you all about build new games?
Don't think so.
So,
do the pitch.
I know he's talking to some people in BBG. So we're working on a new. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think you. I think you're alone, man. Do your pitch on what you want to show.
So, so we're working on a new website, like a HTML open web games tutorial website, and we actually got sponsorship from Microsoft to build it. And so we've got it running, and we're taking like submissions for articles. And this is the website. So this is like a preview of it. We're launching it in about a month, and no one else has seen it. So I just thought I'd show you guys.
Fantastic. I think Darius may have mentioned it to some of us, though we didn't appreciate that it was called Build New Games, etc.
Yeah,
it's lovely, really lovely to actually see it. Fantastic.
This is we've got, you know, we got backwards and we've got forwards. We got down to the comments and back.
That's a good word.
And and we didn't do any JavaScripts. These are all CSS animations. We got permission to use Microsoft's own logo, which I think is cool. And so if you want to, if anybody wants to write for build new games, you should email Darius. We're taking writers now. We'll launch in about 4 weeks.
Excellent.
Great. Very
That's all.
great. You had breakfast already, or not at all? Or?
Huh?
Do you have a breakfast already? No.
No, man. I had
No.
a late night. I was writing code all night.
Oh, you want to show the cat? The cat, lol. Make it laugh. Excellent, man. Excellent. Do we have question, Andrew? Do you know?
Not spotted any, Jerome. I haven't spotted any. I think Boaz was very good in terms of
Boaz is going for breakfast somewhere, or he got cold.
No, I'm just gonna have a cigarette. I don't smoke inside.
All right. Oh, you take us to have a cigarette. All right, excellent. Don't smoke, children. Children, smoking is not good for you.
Stressful, this HTML5 game development.
All right. Excellent. You're on stage. We don't have much question for the guy. Personally, I will, let's say, what I will retain from your talk is you look for collaboration, people to come and tell you their needs from, let's say, the field. They come, do game dev, they hit some trouble, and W3C want to hear about it. So don't be shy. I'll let them know.
Jerome, I just wanted to mention that we do have Mike Smith in the BBG channel.
Indeed, cool guy.
He has requested some feedback in the past, certainly with regards to the audio APIs.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you don't want to hassle Boaz, but you want to sort of provide feedback to the W3C in a considerably more informal manner than what Boaz is proposing, then certainly the option exists by contacting Mike 5 W3C.
And Mike is a real good guy. Be free to contact him. Exactly like Boaz, by the way. You can chat with him.
Yeah, Mike's an awesome guy. He's way cooler than me.
Yeah. We can say you are very stressed when you do a talk. I can see that. Kidding. All right.
Well, we do have a question.
Sure.
Iain Carsberg has mentioned in the chat. A question from QF-Michael K. Incredibly cryptic. What was that last site? Strictly Node.js? JS,
no.
apologies.
It was
louder, please.
No, we built it with it's going to be a Jekyll website.
I'm not sure I understand this one.
It's HTML and CSS. It's served by it's a static site generator called Jekyll.
Oh, sorry, my French accent just.
I was introduced to Jekyll by Hugh F.D. Jackson, who's another channel member. He's basically adapted the original hashbbg.com website so that it uses Jekyll now.
Yeah, Jekyll is great.
Agreed.
I do. Okay. Excellent. Any other question for Boaz? Something on the channel? Anybody? Well, round of applause for this improvised talk in the morning. Yeah! Thanks, man, for showing up. Do we do water cooler, coffee machine? We need to find a name. Andrew, find a name for us. For the second part. Transition. No, you're busy?
So, sorry, just to clarify, the first part we've had a number of slightly more formal talks, of which James from Illyriad, Iain Carsberg of Mediatonic, and Boaz Sender have very kindly dedicated some time to explaining various topics. This second part of the BBG Meetup is considerably more informal. It's an opportunity for us to shoot the breeze.
Exactly.
With all things HTML5 gaming related.
So I think we are switching up to the second part for the second time or something like that.
Hey, has everyone seen Onslaught Defense?
Boaz, please speak louder than this or closer to microphone or something.
Has everyone seen Onslaught Defense?
Onslaught Defense. I haven't personally. Yeah. Pass the link or something.
Yes.
We're gonna show. Or share.
It,
Yell, Boaz. Yell.
I'm just going to interject again and say that actually Xylo, who's also a channel member, he works for Lost Decade Games, who helped to produce Onslaught Defense. He was supposed to be joining us today, but unfortunately he had some personal matters to attend to yesterday, so he's not been able to join us today.
Yeah, that's next time, something like that. We can
next
do that.
Time, certainly.
We have this kind of meeting, something like twice a month.
Yeah.
All right. So, Boaz, you want to show us this meeting?
Yeah. Put the link in the chat. Is that the right place to paste it?
Man,
So,
yeah.
It's a game I saw. That was, I think it's like probably one of the best mobile web games I've seen. Yet it's just like a you have people running at you and you swipe to shoot, but loaded on your like Android or iPhone, and it's like pretty impressive. It's pretty impressively built.
All right. So, Andrew, make us a demo of Lost Decade Games on Straws. And Lost Decade is supposed to be the guy who is supposed to come, right? Isn't that it?
That's entirely correct, yeah. 1 second, let me just share my screen.
All right. So, Andrew, going to attempt to do some demonstration of this game, improvised demonstration. It's okay, we see it. Yes.
I thought I was just showing the website.
Well, click on something. We want to see a screenshot or something.
A screenshot of what, sorry? Of the actual game itself?
We want to do the game. The game is cool as well.
If you want to,
Let me just explain a little about Lost Decade Games.
Should.
I featured the website previously on I think it was probably BBG Meetup 2, so our previous BBG Meetup. They produce every now and then, probably actually at the same frequency that we do with regards to the BBG Meetup. They produce a podcast where it's almost identical to what we're doing here today, actually. The one distinction is obviously that it's not live streamed and it's not video. So you can download it to your MP3 player and you can listen back to it at your leisure. But Lost Decade Games themselves, besides the Lost Cast, they produced one of the earliest popular HTML5 games called Onslaught Arena, which has recently been open sourced. If you visit lostdecadegames.com,
maybe you can show the game.
There are links on there certainly that will allow you to be able to play and get access to the source code for Onslaught Arena. In addition to that, they've just released, as was mentioned, Onslaught Defense.
Sure.
Which I believe, with any luck, Boaz is just about to demo for you. So I'll hand over to Boaz.
Go.
Yeah. Man, this Google Hangout screen sharing thing is really cool.
Indeed. Yell. That's my request. I want you to yell in the morning for us.
Okay, so load this m.lostgames.com/onslaught_defense. I'll just refresh it so you can see it. This just works really well on phones, which is impressive. That's it.
Excellent.
Now, actually, it's easier to play on a desktop than on mobile, which is actually it's a good point. Being sensitive to that is important, right? I'm just getting my phone out. So this is
We see.
This is it running really well on my Android. This is like a G2X running Cyanogen mod 2.3, Android 2.3. And can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like running really, really well. It's harder because you move slower and it's touch based. It's a really good interaction, and I'm really impressed. In fact, I would much rather play this on my phone because of the interaction than on my desktop. And I think that's really what mobile web games are about. Is everyone talks about the open web platform. HTML5 is about building games for every device, but actually, I think it's about just focusing on one device and building a mechanic that's just so much better on that device than it is on anything else that you have to play it there. Playing it, this concept of an adaptive game is really important, and it means that it's not just that the resolution responds to the device you're on, but also the mechanics respond. The promise of the open mobile web is not my game runs the same everywhere. It's that my game runs differently everywhere, and it's free for me to get it to everyone. That's what's exciting.
That's surprising talk from W3C Share, but we appreciate your honesty for sure.
Well, no, I mean, why should it's not? I don't know if people disagree, but why should a game run the exact same everywhere? It's we had this whole conversation with web design, right? And
yep.
Responsive design, it should be different. And responsive is not just different size; it's also different mechanic.
Yeah, but you cannot do much. For example, between the touch latency and let's say the touch event, there is a latency. You cannot do much inside the browser when you do the game, when you are not the vendor.
Showing us that we can. I mean, I think this is a great game. This is.
Yeah, it seems to be. Not saying otherwise.
I don't know if you noticed, I just went away from it.
Yeah.
I go home, and I come back to it, and I can still play, and it picks up where I left off.
Excellent.
It's really, really well done. I mean, this is the future, right? So
indeed.
So what we have to do is build more games like this because we have to idiomize the open. We have to idiomize the open web as the web browser, somewhere where a consumer goes to play a game.
Exactly.
And so we got to build more of these, and that's how that's how the open web becomes stable. That's what I care about, anyways.
I would love that to be. What is your best score? Can you tell us?
I don't know, actually. But yeah. I think another interesting thing, is building games like this that I can play in 60 seconds. That's what I want to see, when I'm pooping.
Yeah, that's one way to say it. Or let's say when you are in the subway between two stations.
Yeah, waiting for the train, exactly. But I wait for the train for longer. Pooping is something I do every day. And I sit there for 1 minute, and I always have my phone, and there's nothing to do. And I never feel good about myself. I go to Hacker News, I'll try and load up a game, it'll take forever. I need instant on, right?
Yeah,
I need a mechanic that takes 50 seconds.
Well, I cannot say otherwise.
You're out there and you want to build that. I think.
So the takeaway is from Boaz: onslaught defense, fantastic when you're on the toilet.
Well, almost actually, because you know what? It takes you longer. You know, if you want to beat this game, you need to. Your legs are going to get numb, man.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
All right. Boaz, any other cool game to show us? Not for now. Well, that's fair.
Has everyone played?
We have
everyone played all the stuff that's hit the Chrome store lately, like Bastion and all those other cool games.
Yeah, now Bastion is interesting because it uses
Native client.
Yeah, it uses native client. Google Chrome's.
Yes.
There's a new game in Google Plus with WebGL. It's hold on, Plus Racing. Just give me a minute. Google Plus Racing. GTA Racing. You play this game? It's made with WebGL. Hold on. This is GT Racing Motor Academy. That's the big name of the game. Here it is. Yeah. It's really, really impressive. What they have managed to do with this game is just amazing. It's also made by Gameloft. They have a team in France, I think. And I know they have another team here, down here in Argentina. That they are also working on WebGL games. So Gameloft is really betting hard on HTML5 games.
What does everyone think about WebGL? In terms of, like, you know, it not being W3C standard and, like, the fact that probably Microsoft is never going to implement it.
You know a DirectX version's coming, though, so...
Huh?
Sorry, Iain, that wasn't terribly clear. What did you say?
You know Microsoft are going to introduce a DirectX version of WebGL, so, and that'll just get shimmed into Three.js.
You think so? Yeah, okay.
That's unconfirmed, though.
No, I know, yeah, it's confirmed, but you can tell it's going to happen, because they don't want to be left behind by everyone else, so, and they're pushing DirectX so much now. Sorry, WebTech and stuff, so...
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to be clear for our listeners.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
I think Jerome might have something to say about WebGL. Maybe I just have an inkling.
Well, I like WebGL quite a bit, and recently we have some good progress on the mobile on WebGL. So there is a Firefox who support a bit of WebGL since a bit. And very recently, we have a quite impressive demo from Opera. Opera is, from memory, that's 37,000 polygon at 60 FPS. I think Boaz is around to show that to us.
No, I have something separate.
Something separate. Okay.
Yeah, I'll show it in a second when you're done talking. Sorry.
So, and I think that the fact that Chrome is coming quite fast on mobile for once, and is very good because you're gonna see probably WebGL there. So that's the end of my intervention. But believe me, I want WebGL probably more than you wanted. All right. So
yeah, I think it would be good if we got DirectX and we were able to write an abstraction across the two. I think it'll be a challenge. I think there's some things, you know, a lot of people tell me that DirectX. I'm not a 3D graphics programmer, A lot of people tell me that DirectX is better, has better filters, for example, than WebGL or OpenGL, WebGL. And in my sort of naive ideal world, I would love to see, standard graphics API, standards for the graphics APIs, but it doesn't look like that will happen. But one thing I'll say, I'm not so sure that WebGL on mobile makes so much sense today, just because the devices are so underpowered. So, like, you even try and do, like, a 3D CSS transform, your battery is pegged to, like, 20%, Like using, like doing these graphics intensive operations is really expensive. And, like, it's like we barely have native 3D games. The idea of doing web-based 3D games in a mobile device is I think, crazy today. But I'm excited people are working on it, because in a year from now, I think the devices will be twice as powerful.
Yeah, that's actually my point, in fact, Boaz, is when you actually build a game, you spend time building this game, and between the time that you are starting, it's picking the technology that you need to pick, and the time you are releasing it, obviously the platform is much better. Currently, WebGL on mobile is clearly not happening, but I think, in fact, at least that's my personal estimation, and I think that's going to happen like second half of this year. We have several browsers who are going to come, and hopefully one day iOS will pick up. That's my take, at least.
Sony Ericsson have updated the default Android browser on their phone, so it's got WebGL running dead smooth. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try putting my phone in front of the camera, but it's running one of Jerome's Valentine's Day love videos. Let me just see if that. It's running, but
obvious
it's
plug.
And it's fine. So it's
Yeah.
smooth as my laptop.
Yeah. We have more, let's say, more not interesting, but more gamey interaction. But that's completely cool, man. That shows that WebGL can actually run in an efficient fashion. And
that's using the default browser. That's not Firefox or anything. That's just
serious?
the Android browser.
Android browser running WebGL?
Yeah. They have to. Device manufacturers have to enable it. So.
And but I think that's almost a problem, right? Like before you give us WebGL, give us consistent CSS rendering and consistent DOM events. It's crazy to think that these device manufacturers are implementing all these features, like these advanced 3D features, and they're not giving us blob builder or typed arrays or these other really important features. That's what we found in Ringmark is these phones are implementing WebGL, but they're not implementing all these important things first that we need in order to build 3D, real 3D experiences.
Well.
Yeah, so all the ancillary bits and pieces that we need in order to embellish the games that we're creating with WebGL?
Yes. Or, to make like I said, to idiomize the mobile web. That's great if I can play a 3D game on the mobile web, but what if I can't, reliably check my, what if I can't reliably use all the other software I want to use on the mobile web?
Yes.
And I'm still going to be using native for Instagram and Facebook and whatever it is that I'm using.
Wow. Well, how can I say? Boaz, it's normal, right? Vendor got various priorities. Some vendor got some priorities. Other vendor got other priorities. And I would like to say, welcome in the standard world.
Yeah.
So.
Just a very small comment about Internet Explorer.
Okay, sure.
Microsoft and WebGL is that I just very recently Microsoft announced support for CSS 3D transformations on IE10, and that's a very big step. And I sent a private message to Martin Beebe, which is from Microsoft, asking if they were going to support CSS 3D transformations on Windows phones, which it would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
and he could not confirm or deny that they were going to add CSS 3D transformations on Windows phones, which can be taken as a hint that they will. Now, if they add 3D transformations, CSS 3D transformations on IE10, and in the future they also add it to Windows phones, it means that there's some sorts of framework in the works that they were going to probably add as an alternative to WebGL. I think that's my opinion.
Well, anybody want to react on this? Not too much, or is my network going down?
No, I think just everyone's quiet.
All right, my personal take on this as a WebGL beat mover, let's say, I don't think that's possible to do any other standards than WebGL, and especially on mobile. Microsoft got muscle power on the desktop. They don't have much on the mobile ground. I mean, that's a polite way to say nobody use Windows on mobile. They use iOS, they use stuff like that, but Windows not that much, right? But on the desktop, they do have the power.
Has anybody here used Windows 7.5 Metro?
Anybody?
So we have at work, we just got a 7.5 test device.
Okay.
And I'm actually really impressed. It's really awesome. Like, it's way better than my Android.
Sure.
I've been saying how much I hate my Android compared to iPhone. I'm like definitely the kind of person who like roots and mods my phone, and I like wanted Android because
open source.
Fuck Apple, fuck Microsoft. But I've gotten to the point where it's like my experience is so much worse on my Android than it has when I use an iPhone. Or now, like when I use the Windows Phone, it's like really good. Like Metro is really beautiful and responsive and fast. And
excellent. Can you show us?
Really well designed. I don't have.
We have a video from your screen at your moment. Seems to be Opera or something.
Oh yeah, so I'm going to show this in a second, but
okay.
I'll just say with regards to Microsoft, I think that Windows 8 is going to really, for mobile, is really going to be impactful. I think people are going to start using it. Like I can't believe that I would think of using it.
Okay.
My career has been like I was the CSS guy in 2004, like dealing with IE6.
Okay.
Like I hated Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer 10 is awesome. Except for minus WebGL, like it is doing everything I need it to be doing in a pretty standards compliant way. And so I think that actually Microsoft is a big part of the open web platform and moving it forward, and the open web games, especially to the extent that we're getting they're sort of like they're big business users to sort of start having a modern web browser. It's really exciting.
I remember Dominic Zablewski of Hack.js. He has mentioned that certainly with regards to performance and the conventional 2D canvas element on Internet Explorer, performance is completely head and shoulders above some of the other more common modern browsers.
Yeah, they have a really good canvas implementation that's very fast. Depending on what you're doing, but yeah. It's interesting to explore how all these different browsers are doing the render loop and how they optimize for it and how they're accelerating their stuff. It's actually not cut and dry, right? Like, there's tips and tricks out there for how to optimize your UIs or optimize your games by hardware accelerating them, but actually, hardware acceleration can be really good for some things, like what IE10 has in Canvas. It can also be really bad. Like if you have too much going on that's hardware accelerated, there's other downsides. It's like you know, it's a tough to make a decision about how to use these features. But yeah, I10's Cover Acceleration is awesome. So here's another thing. Here's another thing that we stumbled into when we were running the test suite on Opera. We noticed it was passing WebRTC tests that we wrote. Running. And so this is Opera. This is Opera Mobile running native access to the video camera through Get User Media, which is very exciting. So it's like the first mobile web browser to ship camera access, and it's Opera 12. You can download it today, which is really awesome.
Clearly, man.
So I don't have a demo running that I can show everyone, but we have a blog post about it at work. And
was that taken at the Bocoup loft? That?
Yeah, I was taken at work at Bocoup. That's Rick. But so WebRTC, is everyone here familiar with WebRTC?
Yes.
Real-time communication.
Yes.
The collection of features for doing like peer-to-peer connection, audio, and video capture from the device.
Yes.
It's implemented and fairly stable in Chrome Dev, which means that we're going to see it in Chrome Stable in about 8 weeks probably, which means that 200 million users are going to get it in their web browser, which is pretty crazy. And we're seeing it on Opera Mobile 12. So, I mean, you know, if you want to build video chat into your game, you know, that's not far off.
Exactly. That's Skype on. By the way, all that is very easy to plug inside the WebGL demo. You can read the webcam and make it appear on your WebGL demo, like 4 line.
It's actually very little code.
Yes, 4 line. I did a demo at one point somewhere, and yeah, it's excellent because inside the DOM you are basically a video element. So whatever is working with a video element, it can be a webcam. That's really cool. You can do live processing with it. With Pixarstick, I did that, and it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that you know.
Go ahead.
That was the Bocoup loft. That's our office where I work at in Boston. If anybody listening is ever in Boston, feel free to come by. We have a cool office. We have co-working. It's free to come co-work for the day. We have like a lot of extra desks. So yeah, like drop in, co-work, say hi. We have a lot of meetups too, so you can feel free to come by if you're in Boston. Yeah.
We will if we are in Boston.
Awesome. Yeah, come to Boston.
Excellent. He got something else to show us on the ground.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to be at GDC next week.
Okay.
And I have lots of, you know, if you're going to GDC, I've got lots of Bocoup stickers. And I got some new Backbone stickers, if anybody out there is using Backbone.js.
Okay. Already got the other one on my laptop.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So we got a bunch of Backbone.js stickers. I also have Popcorn.js stickers.
Okay.
I got a pack tonight because I fly out.
Oh, it's going to be cool, man. Okay. So, are we over now? Any other stuff crazy to show us? No?
James, I know this is a little impromptu, mate, but are you in a position to actually give us a sort of a quick run through of Illyriad, or am I asking too much?
In what way?
I don't know, maybe you could log in and just sort of give people an overview, or maybe show us a video of the game itself in action.
Yeah, sure, if people want to see it.
Yeah, improvise mod
Hold on 1
plus.
second.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I actually did. So do it.
Hold on a second.
whilst James is just loading up, I just wanted to say a little bit about the Hash BBG channel itself. Very welcoming community. We have these BBG meetups, as Jerome mentioned, maybe every other 2 weeks, something like that. You can connect via bit.ly/IRCBBG. We're on Freenode, HashBBG, and we have a website, hashbbg.com. So we'd love to see you there. James, go for it, mate.
Alrighty, just a very quick demo of Illyriad. It's a HTML5 game. There's a lot of information on the sign-up pages about the game and what it looks like. I'll just log in. Hopefully it won't show you my password. This is the default super user account. The game itself is fully HTML5. It's HTML5 and JavaScript. We don't use any Flash. It's got quite a lot of text, graphics, and interest. It's a fully zoomable, draggable, droppable world with detailed world map, lots of levels of zoom. Although I have to apparently spend some in-game currency to increase my levels of zoom out to the max. We designed the game as a very full-on strategic game. It's got a lot of terrain variations. It's fractally generated as well as hand drawn. There are huge numbers of different parts of the world, regions, other players. We have 150,000 players in the game. There is a substantial economy that is entirely player-driven. It's a city builder with a lot of strategy behind it. And we have huge numbers of strategic options. There are more than 500 military units. There are diplomatic options, spying, scouting, sabotage, assassination. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the game that you can do. We are working on a WebGL version of the game, or of certain aspects of it, which I might be able to demo actually. If I just pull up a tab.
Very well.
Oh, apparently I can't. So I could demo the web version.
No problem, man.
But I can't. It's on our dev blog. Let me just see if maybe the link's changed.
Yeah,
I haven't updated
pass the link. We're gonna copy that. All the link which has been pasted will be copied inside the blog post. We're gonna be updated with a summary of it all.
Okay, that's the link. We put this demo together for New Game Conference. It's pretty bandwidth.
James, we are losing your video.
Optimize it.
Your video is freezed. James, your video is freezed. Very freezed. We still hear you, though.
Oh, well, that's the important bit. Sorry, some of the AT&T network backbone in the forests of northern Georgia is not the fastest. It's one of the other reasons I'm moving to Florida.
That's cool, man. Well, you are still freezed. Boaz, louder.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Are you in Georgia?
Yep, Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, I thought you were saying like Georgia, the country.
No. Atlanta, Georgia, US.
You are back on screen, James.
Okay.
You can go on if you want. We see the 3D.
Don't know what the render rate will be like.
Yeah, FPS is low, but we understand that because of the stream.
For everyone.
So
it'll be my bandwidth. It's actually pretty smooth if you do it yourself.
Yeah.
This is a 3D town. We've got day-night cycles in there. We've got lighting effects in there.
Nice. Very nice.
A variety of different objects, but it runs really smooth. If you do it yourself rather than trying to stream it around.
We understand. Don't worry.
So it's there's a lot of stuff in there. We've got animation in there. It's also got sound, 3D audio effects in there. If you go up to the windmills, the blades are turning. You hear the grinding of gears, and they're event-driven audio. At night time, you hear the crickets and the frogs, and in the day, when dawn comes, you get the birds.
Nice touch.
So it's something we're working on. The demo is there. You can play it. You can wander around the world. The models are pretty rich and pretty detailed. It's a little bit too bandwidth heavy to download them all and get them in, but it works. It's there. There's a full town. It's an accelerated day-night cycle, of course. And you also got various effects that you can try as well. You can morph your clouds or change your lighting information, and you change your colors and all the rest of it. So there's stuff in there that's just demoing what we're beginning to do with WebGL, and we're very, very keen to make WebGL a really fundamental part of everything we're doing. It's a really exciting technology, and we're really excited by it. A combination of WebGL and WebRTC actually is, I think, the ultimate for us in terms of gaming options.
Immediately, I'm thinking about Second Life, where you can do complete interaction inside a 3D world. It is currently, almost currently available inside a web browser. Personally, I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's really exciting for us, and there's and I think for anyone who's making any games, you can really see the options in there and the possibilities, and there's a huge amount of excitement, certainly in our company, about what you can do.
I love the day and night lighting, but isn't that too fast? How long is a day in your game?
This is a very, very sped up demo.
Okay.
Here.
I suspect.
Illyriad, the game actually runs in real time, so this would be a full 24-hour cycle. We were just testing around with effects, for example, with dawn breaking. You can see the clouds aren't quite right. They're moving on not a smooth path. You can see the joins in the sphere above. But these are all things that we're testing and working on, proper effects like dawn breaking and dusk and sunset.
It does look good.
Really, really trying to make it a very immersive environment and bring it in. But yeah, this is a very sped up version.
Oh, I would love to talk to your developers about WebGL. Personal life.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Ben Adams and our CTO and Simon Hopkin are
I think I know them.
And they're doing very good. James Bell also is our audio engineer. He's putting all the audio sound stuff together. So that's a brief overview of Illyriad. We just finished a successful fundraising round. We've now got funds to grow the team, expand faster, deliver the content that we've promised, actually put this stuff in game, do a lot of other exciting things.
Okay.
Thank you, James. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Fantastic.
Go ahead, Andrew. You're on stage.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to thank James.
No problems.
I don't like to put people on the spot, but
no, he did well.
I feel it's relevant given the talk that he gave earlier.
just saying, we are 8:20 in Central European time.
Yeah, it's probably
Time
about
to go to the pub.
Yeah, something like that.
Time to do what we do best.
Exactly. So, is it time to close up? Everybody is agreeing on that? I mean, it has been an excellent one. Let me show everybody's face. All right. So, we close up. Andrew, you all right with that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
So, shake your hand, everybody. We did quite a good job today, I think. And
Thank you very much, everyone.
and see you next time. Twice a month.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.